Oh, well, it's Monday. It's kind of funny. I will say this. As a news junkie, political junkie, as a guy who's always been into world events, ever since Trump got elected, I will say it has been like fucking Christmas. Every morning you wake up and you look at the news and wonder, I wonder what Shitler posted over, overnight on social media and how much the world has changed. I mean, over the weekend we've had a trade war with Colombia that's been resolved. We have inspector generals being fired. Now, people probably don't have a clue who inspector generals are, and they should. They should know who those people are. They're a very important part of government. I mean, fuck, I'm Canadian, and I even know what the role of the inspector generals is. And you do a midnight purge at, Friday night, and you get rid of the overwatch, of government to make sure money isn't being wasted, and the things are legal. When you do the long of the night of the long knives on a Friday over Truth Social. I mean, that's government policy for you now, right? It's just about upending, the world norms and everything like that, and it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So anyway, just a quick thing here. I had comments on another social media platform that there's a lot of confusion out there. People seem to think that fascism is, pertaining to just Nazis and Jews, right? And that's not what it is. I mean, fascism in Nazi Germany was directed towards the Jews primarily, plus other subgroups. This day and age, though, it's not the Jews, because I've had people say, "Well, Trump likes the Israel and the Jews." Yeah, I'm sure he does, right? And why the Republican base and Republicans and even Americans in general are so gung ho for supporting Israel, well, that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, back to fascism and stuff. It's not necessarily just against the Jews. I mean, in the States, you could look at it right now in terms of excuse me. I mean, immigrants in general, but really, it's even beyond that. What we're experiencing now is capitalistic fascism. It's class fascism, right? You got the ultra rich, and the oligarchs and the tech bros, and the CEOs and the hedge fund investors, and just all of that stuff there. They're waging war on the poor people, right? I was reading in the news today, even in Florida, ballot measures to try and limit the ability of populations to be able to make referendums available for various initiatives in Florida. So bit by bit, when you start taking away people's ability to fight the government and make sure that their voices are heard, when you start slowly taking away all that stuff, and that's the start of it, right? Anyway, like I said, I'm Canadian, but with the American political system, it dominates the world right now. But we also have an election coming up here in Canada, right? And it's an important election. I think that it's very important for Canadians to be engaged in the political process. Today is January 27th. It's the last day that somebody can register for the Liberal Party of Canada and be able to vote for the upcoming leadership race. It's kind of ironic that you can be 14 years old or older to be able to vote. You can't be 14 and vote in federal elections, but you can be 14 and vote for a political leader. I mean, it's kind of weird. So, I mean, if you're 14 years old or something in Canada and you want to be able to vote and, see who the next prime minister is going to be, I mean, this is your opportunity. But we got a lot of stuff going on here, like we got Mark Carney made a big splash on the Tonight Daily Show with Jon Stewart as his introduction. Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gold. I mean, yeah, a liberal is a liberal is a liberal, But then you got to look at the other side of the spectrum and look at Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, and they're in a lot of trouble. Their support in the polls has been going down slightly, but it has been going down ever since Trudeau has said he wasn't, running anymore. He's given up the prime ministership, and without a leader, the fact that the Liberals have increased in the polls is an interesting sign. But also, as well too, and I have said this, with friends in passing conversations, it'd be interesting to see, how much of Pierre Poilievre's support is actually just Liberal voters who were tired of Trudeau and not the Liberal brand, right? How many of those voters are going to gravitate back to the Liberal Party when somebody besides Trudeau is in power? And then you add in the fact as well too that for the past 2 years since Pierre Poilievre, or PP, he hates that name, but has been the leader and stuff. The only thing that we as Canadians have heard from the Conservative side is axe the tax and Justin Trudeau sucks, right? And now that Trudeau is gone, and the front runners, Carney and Freeland, have both made some overtures as to getting rid of or drastically reducing or doing something with the carbon tax. You've taken away the two main things that Pierre Poilievre has been, saying to the public and stuff. And I always say that's the problem when you run a campaign on personalities and not policies, right? We don't hear a lot of Pierre Poilievre in the news right now because I think him and the party are really, really scrambling to try and come up with a message that will be effective in the next election, which could be in March, April, could be in October, but regardless, at some point in 2025, we are going to have an election and everything, right? So that's my KK poker hat. If anybody wants to talk poker, let me know. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So, when you only have your platform is based on, how shitty Trudeau is and the carbon tax, when you take those two things away, what do you have left, right? And then you also have to remember as well too that Pierre Poilievre is, the guy's been a professional politician. He's been in politics for over 20 years. A member of parliament's the only job the guy's ever had. And in his 20 years of being in, both Stephen Harper's Conservative government, being in opposition, in all those years, I've looked and I can't find much legislation, if any, consequential legislation that can be attributed to Pierre Poilievre. Things that have, advanced helping Canadians, over 20 years. It's not much. But he was eligible for his MP pension. He earned it by age 31. So when he reaches, age 55 or 65, I think it is, I'm not 100% sure. But when he reaches that age, he's got a gold-plated pension that he, was eligible for back when he was 31. So if you're looking for an agent for change, I don't know if Pierre Poilievre is that agent for change, right? So anyway, it's been interesting. Just remember, fascism doesn't necessarily mean Nazis and Jews. Pierre Poilievre has not really got a lot of ideas, and the Liberal leadership race, meh. I mean, there's nothing exciting. I will say Carney being, the Bank of Canada governor, Bank of England governor, they're trying to paint him as a Liberal insider, but when facing Trump and tariffs and, the Canadian economy being stagnant for 10 years, an economist is not necessarily a bad thing, right? And also, two people are like, oh, one issue though I have is everyone's like, oh, he's smart, he'll kick Trump's ass, and Trump doesn't care if you're smart. Dude, Trump is, a bull in a china shop and a loud guy with a megaphone, and for him, it's not about smart; it's about strength, right? And that's what we need in this country. We don't, we've been kind of just been pacifists. I mean, that's the Canadian nature. But anyway, that's a discussion for a whole other day. I can't believe I've been chatting for 10 minutes already. Anyway, I'm going to go, and I'm sure I'll be posting other videos. And also as well, too, if you're a Trump supporter, you're not going to enjoy my content. But that being said, I'll always engage in discussion and debate with anybody as long as it's respectful.